Calaroga Shark Media.
Hi there, I'm Johnny Mac, and if you listen to yesterday's episode, it was a crossover episode with the Letterman podcast. Mike Chisholm, who hosts the Letterman podcast, made a list of the top 10 late-night hosts of all time, and we made it all the way through number 7. We got a little chatty. In case you missed it, number 10 was Steve Allen, 9 Arsenio Hall, 8 Craig Ferguson, number 7, the worst guy who ever lived, Jay Leno, and we did 20 minutes on Jay Leno at the end of yesterday's episode, which made the episode kind of long, so I had to split it in 2. So if you missed it, go back and listen to yesterday, and here is the rest of the list.
I'm glad we spent as much time on Jay as we did. We're going to move to number 6 now. And this is the first one where it comes with somebody sort of attached to it. There's 2 of them here, or 3 of them here maybe, that have somebody attached to them. Number 6 is Jon Stewart. Now, I'm going to just say this flat out. In the last 5, Stephen Colbert is not one of them. But with Jon Stewart,
right. Well, okay, so right there, that's
so there
fun
we
to
go.
get to. But they're kicking Saint Colbert off the air. What is wrong with you, Mike? They're kicking him off, and
right. And a lot of people,
he's
number one
show. And he kept the Late Show franchise going, and whoa, not on the list. See, this is exactly why I don't want to see your list.
Great example. You should teach that to the kids. What do you teach, by the way?
In the fall, I teach introduction. Well, it was introduction to radio, and I went to the university. I'm like, you got me teaching introduction to horse and buggy. We got to rebrand this. So now it's radio, podcast, and streaming.
Good.
And then I teach a management course of that in the spring. And then at the other university, I teach podcasting production, which isn't just here's how you hit record or here's how you master it. I'll do a lot of weeks about here's how we approach the content. Here's what we're trying to do. Here's why we do these things and how you approach the creative before we even try to hit record.
Oh, that's great. It talks about the testament to communication. It was intro to radio, and then it became intro to what's the name of it now?
I think it's radio, streaming, and media, and podcasting, which it's unofficially been for about 5 years. Don't tell anybody. I'm like, if you want me to teach you about how an AM transmitter works, I can. I don't know what you're going to do with the information. I know how to edit with a razor blade. I've done it. I was pretty good at it, but let me show you Pro Tools. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Well, just the name of the course, though, you're going to get a lineup versus crickets on the other side, like calling it streaming, podcasting. Like it's a no-brainer. Alex Bennett and I talk about this all the time. I use the word broadcasting all the time, and it drives Alex up the wall because he's just like, broadcasting is this and it's this. And he just, has the line of what broadcast. This is not broadcasting. Streaming is not broadcasting. I'm like, yeah, but I appreciate that. I appreciate that broadcasting does have, some finite rules, but at the end of the day, what are we doing here? I mean, it is all broadcasting for that. That's what it's for, right? It's not the tools that make it happen. It's the fact that it's happening at all. That's why we're doing it, right?
Well, the podcasting industry right now, what is a podcast? Like,
exactly,
is this a podcast? Well, there's cameras on, so yes and no. And the video version might be, the audio version definitely is. Mm-hmm. And if I put Bill Simmons on Netflix, is that a podcast? TikTok started live streaming things and using the word podcast. Now, I'll Alex Bennett that and be like, hey, live stream on TikTok is not a podcast. I'm sorry.
Yep.
But then I'll also come back to it and say, it doesn't matter. Whatever the audience thinks is a podcast, that's what a podcast is. So if you call this thing the Letterman podcast and sunset the audio version and Netflix throws you money and it's there and people stare at this conversation, that's a podcast because you said it was.
There you go. That's it. You said it was. That's right.
And also at that point, you'll have to come up with a different name because at that point, Mr. D will be like, am I getting any of this money here? Or
no.
I see you got a Netflix deal. So you'll have to call it like the L-Man pod.
Oh, fantasies like that are really funny. Yeah. Jon Stewart is number 6. So Jon Stewart, and to me, Jon Stewart gets the nod, and he comes with him a contingent of people. Colbert is one of them. But to me, there's a guy who, you talk about a guy who changed late night. And really at the end of the day, I mean, so many people would watch Saturday Night Live back in the day for Dennis Miller or for Norm Macdonald or for what Weekend Update has always been such a powerful, not necessarily the news, all of these different, the idea that Madeline Smithberg and those people could come up and put the rocket onto Jon Stewart and create a version of the Daily Show that would become iconic. And not only that, he is a king, but he's also a kingmaker in Colbert. And other people, of course, John Oliver, and the idea that Jon Stewart, I think he's getting the reverence that he deserves. The comeback this year has really shown that he does have a reverence out there, and he is one of those guys. He's kind of transcending. Conan's transcending as well. You're seeing it start to happen with Jimmy, where they become more than just a late night talk show host, but to become something else. Dave, of course, did it years ago. Jon Stewart's at that place right now. Colbert's going to be at that place after he retires. And probably if we did this list next year, as a result of when he does retire and all the gaga and the ballyhoo that's going to surround that. But right now Jon Stewart's going to be the guy at number 6 on the top 10 late night hosts of all time. Jon Stewart, New York guy. You're a New York guy. You cross paths with him very often in your career?
No, I've never run into Jon either. So I'm struggling with this one, much like what is a podcast. When you say to me late night, my brain goes to the Steve Allen template. There's a desk and a cityscape behind it. It kind of looks like your setup there, and we do a monologue and some guests come out and we go home. And Jon Stewart's not doing that. Is he in the Hall of Fame of whatever Hall of Fame we're making? Absolutely. Is he a kingmaker? Absolutely. Is he hilarious? Absolutely. Is he influential on culture? Absolutely. What else can I say about him that's awesome? Does he walk the talk? Yeah. The stuff he's done for veterans. Wow. What an awesome dude. And yes. But in my small brain, he's in a different filing cabinet than Jay Leno and Steve Allen, that he's doing something else. He's over here with John Oliver, and you mentioned not necessarily the news, which is not a late night show. But why is the Daily Show a late night show and not necessarily news isn't? And I don't know, and I don't care. So I'm not going to throw tomatoes at my screen and be like, this list is outrageous. I just... let's make some other list and put him at number 1. He's awesome.
Yeah.
I just feel like it's, for me, something in a different category.
Yeah. Well, okay. So I used to feel the same way that you did. So this is just a testament to the way that when we zone in on this stuff, those of us who are nerds for this stuff, that's the way that our brain kind of works. I was actually convinced the other way, and I listened to it. And I'll name drop her for sure. Madeline Sithberg and I, we chat. I would say frequently. Yeah, frequently. Moderately frequently. Madeline Sithberg and I will chat, and she's going to come on the show here at some point. But I asked that question. I asked her that question. I said, okay, well, is the Daily Show a late night show? And she convinced me of it. It was like, what? Because the desk comes out early, it's not a late night show. What? Because, and I mean, that's not something that she said. She was far more eloquent in what she said, but I am now back on board where, I believe Daily Show is a late night show. It's nightly. They have guests. They, to me, I think the Daily Show actually changed late night. I was having this conversation with Scott Ryan, who wrote Last Days of Letterman. We were talking about this. We were wondering when the first time, I don't think Dave ever did a monologue where a screen showed up beside him and there was graphics that were enhancing the jokes, but he did definitely throw to video packages within the monologue. Like famously, the very last Late Show, one of the things that he said in the middle of the monologue, okay, now it's time for a new segment, comedy we would have done tomorrow. There are a bunch of jokes that were still topical. It's just very good. Very, very, nice. When did Dave add that to the monologue? Well, it was certainly after the Daily Show showed up. Never mind the fact that you had other hosts at other desks who had the graphic and was being helped. Well, now they're really merging into two, and so anyway, I'm convinced that the Daily Show is a late night show, and that's why Jon's on the list. But powerful force in nature, in late night nature. There's no question about that.
Absolutely.
Number 5, we're going to the imitator, the guy who wants to be David Letterman, and that is Jimmy Kimmel. I think if September of 2025 hadn't happened, he would have been further up the list. He might not have made the list, but I said earlier that I think that Jimmy is transcending and he's going past this this place of into the next zone, whatever that is. Who knows how long he's going to do it for, but he has certainly got all he deserves to be on this list, because ABC never had a late night show, for the same reason that Letterman gets all the accolades for giving CBS their late night show. Jimmy Kimmel did it for ABC. You talk about a network that gave a guy time to find his voice and become something. My gosh, remember the original? It's called Jimmy Kimmel Live because they were live. They were all live at first, and he couldn't get guests, and the audience could drink, and there was all sorts of crazy stuff that this place started with, and what it's evolved into. It's evolved into David Letterman Light, but at the same time, he is the combination of Jay Leno and David Letterman, because you've got this guy who works for ABC. Well, he happens to be a Star Wars fan. He happens to be a Marvel Comics fan. He happens to be a fan of the network that owns him and all of their properties, and so every time one of these new projects comes out, he can do a collab with them, and he can do, well, this is the stuff that Leno loved about the Tonight Show, and the stuff that Dave hated. He didn't like doing that stuff at all. Jimmy has embraced that and has done a phenomenal job at that. Then you've got the fact that he's hosted the Oscars and done all sorts of things that Johnny Carson did back in the day, and did very, very well at it. To me, Jimmy Kimmel is absolutely worthy of being number 5 on the top 10 late night hosts of all time. What do you think about that?
I feel you have him too high. I am favorable towards Jimmy Kimmel. I think if we think in terms of two things came to mind in terms of baseball. For my beloved 86 Mets, you had Dwight Gooden, Dr. K, with the incredible, not just the fastball and striking people out, he had this incredible curveball. He's David Letterman. And then behind him, you had Ron Darling, quietly going about his business, winning 15 games a year and sitting in that number 2 slot. And I feel like Kimmel, on his walk to the Hall of Fame, and we'll see what this final act is, however long it is, whether it is another year and a half or longer, is accumulating innings. And they're nice, solid innings, but he's definitely not making Mount Rushmore, right? Which doesn't mean you're bad. Not everyone makes Mount Rushmore.
Yep.
And I just feel like it's high. I'd have to look at the final list and does he make it? Why is he making it over Stephen Colbert? Can we have that discussion, or is that for later?
Absolutely. No, we can have the discussion right now. Absolutely. Yeah, Colbert didn't make the list because, as far as he's in that Stewart category, and so he gets that's where his sort of honorable mention comes in. So I cheated a little bit,
okay,
because he was the king that Stewart made. But again, this time next year, when we see how he leaves the Late Show and what happens, it might be a different list next year. But yeah, Kimmel, to me, this was a debate that I had in my head, and I'm like, well, it's not that I'm not going to mention him, but Kimmel, the fact that he got brought back the way that he did, and thank goodness you don't have to boycott this stuff anymore. I'm so grateful for that. The fact that he got brought back the way that he did and whatnot, just this year here, it just showed that he's one of those guys. And I just feel like he is transcending out of, and he's becoming bigger than what it is that he does. I just feel like Kimmel's making that transformation right now.
So while we're touching on Colbert, how do you walk off? Is the right move just, hey, let's book every A-level star? Like, I don't feel like that's the right move for Colbert. I feel like his walk-off needs to be more thoughtful and say something. So I don't need Tom Cruise coming by to promote Mission Impossible 10. I need him to do something with some weight and speak to the nation and speak to the moment. And I don't know what that is, but it's not just Sebastian Maniscalco coming on doing his thing.
Yeah, I feel like when Dave, like, again, I've said that the greatest 6 weeks of entertainment in my entire life was the last 6 weeks of Late Show with David Letterman. They threw the kitchen sink at it, but the kitchen sink that they threw was a version of Johnny Carson's kitchen sink.
Yeah.
It was laid out very similarly. There would be lots of clips of things that happened over the years. And when you have a width and breadth of body of work, you can do that. Well, Colbert doesn't have that. Colbert's got 10 years, unless you start bringing in the Comedy Central stuff. And if you start bringing in the Comedy Central stuff from the Rapport, okay, you can do that. And there might be a unique version of that kitchen sink that can be done. And like you said earlier, they combine it with bringing A-list stars, but of course, bringing back friends of the show. If there's an ingredient that needs to be included with Colbert's exit, I firmly believe that whoever are considered friends of his show need to be deeply involved in it. And of course, the top of that list is, of course, Jon Stewart, right? I think there are ways that you could customize, what the ending is going to look like, but it's going to have to do with the friends of the show. He's got a lot more political friends than Letterman or Carson ever did. That's going to be an interesting element to it as well, because his show is very political. It's a political show. So I think it does need to be different, though, because it is such a different show than what Letterman and Carson did.
Boy, we're chatting. It's time to get some business in here. We'll take a break. We'll come back. We'll talk a little more with Mike Chisholm about the top 10 late night hosts of all time. Mike Chisholm hosts the Letterman podcast. He is today's guest, and we're discussing his list of the top 10 late night hosts of all time.
And how many do we have left? I'm playing along. I don't want to spoil the show. I have 5 names in my head that you could throw out.
So there's 4
of them
total.
are very obvious. There's 4 left, and I have 5 names left.
Exactly. And I think I know what I'm going to do.
Mentions. Okay.
Yeah.
I don't want to throw names out and ruin it for the audience, but I would imagine people can guess it. At least 3 of them.
Yeah, for sure. Number 4 is our boy Conan O'Brien.
Okay.
And, that's one of the names for sure. There's no question. Conan, how do you follow David Letterman? And Conan not only did it, but did it right. He did a phenomenal job taking over the mantle of late night. He was so resilient as late night became similar to the Letterman Carson thing. When Letterman was on at 12:30, there was a point where his show was the hip show, and the Tonight Show was the anchor that the hip show was kind of attached to. The same thing happened with Conan and Leno. There was a point where Conan was the hip guy. He was the guy they were getting to host the Emmys, just like Dave. And he was the guy that was knocking the ball out of the park, creating new types of the way to present the show, his travel shows, and then of course the resilience of weathering the storms. And he had a lot of them at the beginning, of course, during the late night years. Of course, how do you react to having the Tonight Show taken from you after it was promised to you for 5 years? And Conan, leaving late night, the deal that he signed with Sirius, the podcast, all the relevance that Conan has in life. And right now at this time, I just want to throw a shout out to he and his family and all the stuff that they're going through right now. They are just, what a way that they're in it right now. The most unpredictable kind of thing. We just have so much love for Conan and respect for him. And of course he's going to be on this list, and he's going to be really high up on this list. So that's why he's at number 4.
Not to bring the show down, but one of the things, as a producer, I try and look ahead to the stories of the next 6 months or the next year. Yeah. I fear we're going to have a major celebrity trial where lawyers are going to want to ask Conan O'Brien what happened at that party. And I could see a defense attorney saying, well, why didn't you call 911 when people said, I fear Conan's going to be in the news for reasons no one deserves to be in the news. What a horrible tragedy, obviously. But I just want to, put that out there into the universe that I think we're going to see Conan's name in the news in 2026.
Yeah, I absolutely. And I just, but that stuff is going to work itself out. That stuff is, hindsight is 20/20. Could I have done something different? Okay, there's that, but then there's also the heart part. And I mean, I know that I've heard a couple of grapevine things, and there's a lot of people that are really sad right now and really just hurt and devastated, in fact. And I just feel so bad for that part of it as well. Of course, you're right. It's going to be, if this trial is public, it's going to be, in my opinion, it's going to be like the OJ trial. It's going to be, it'll be a circus. Hopefully that can be circumvented somehow. I don't know if there's what the laws are and if there's special circumstances, if that then seals things. I don't know if that would happen, but I think you're right. I think it's going to become a circus. But at the end of the day, when a circus is happening and people are genuinely hurt and there's all this stuff going on around them, that's the part where I'm just like, just everybody who's involved in that situation, know that there are people out there in public who are just pulling for you, and we're thinking about you.
Yeah, I say none of this flippantly, just as someone who analyzes things. This makes Conan's bio, obit, It might be one sentence in the seventh paragraph, but it's going to make his obituary. And again, what a horrible situation. I don't mean to be the least bit flippant about this situation, and I hope I'm not coming across that way. But just factually, Conan's going to be in the news, as are some other famous people.
Absolutely. Now, that being said, the reason that he is in the news the way he is the giant he has become. And you talk about Smigel, and I think about them, and I think about, the camaraderie that they had back in the SNL days. And if either of them could have ever fathomed that this would happen to them, and they would become the cultural icons that they are. Conan, of course, being the public one, Smigel, being the genius, the creative genius behind the scenes. But you think about Conan, and do you think even in his wildest dreams, he takes over for David Letterman, that he would end up becoming who he's become?
No, I can't. All right, because if you just go back, it's wait. Lauren says I can host 12:30. Okay, and how long are you thinking you're going to do that for 14 years? Are you hoping it lasts a year, 3 years, and then you go do what? And then, hey, do you want to host the Tonight Show? Well, of course, everyone wants to host the Tonight Show. Who doesn't want to host the Tonight Show? And then that rug gets pulled out of you. And then I know we have differing opinions on the TBS years. A little, I mean, less visible, right? It's not the Tonight Show. It's TBS. But then this more recent act of both the podcast and then the great appearance as an Oscar host, the Mark Twain Awards. He'll be back as the Oscars host. Now, the Oscars itself is interesting because is it 2 years of Conan, and then because the Oscars' destiny is YouTube, and YouTube will want to put their own spin on it and have, hey, it's the 102nd Oscars with your host, Mr. Beast. So Conan's not about to host the Oscars for the next 10 years. He might do 2 or 3. Do they go back to Kimmel one last time on ABC? And this gets me back to if Jimmy Kimmel retires, dude, you're my age. What are you going to do for the next 15, 20 years? I know you have money, but you need something to do. You have to have a project, even if it's hosting Strike Force 5. I don't see Jimmy Kimmel at 55-ish. Just going home and doing nothing for 20 years. You need something to do. Even David Letterman apparently needs something to do, right?
Hey, there's the name for the next Netflix show. David Letterman needs something to do. It would be not far off the mark. I mean, Conan's a giant. Him hosting the Oscars was cherry on top in so many ways. And it's going to be great to see him do it again. I look forward to everything that he's doing. We got 3 left, and you got 4 names. I think 3 is going to combine 2 of those names. Okay. Now I'm a little biased with this one here. I fully admit it, but I still stand by it. The number 3, talk show host, the top 10 talk show host of all time. Number 3 for me is Dick Cavett.
Yes.
Now, with me, Dick Cavett comes with somebody, and he comes with his mentor. He comes with Jack Paar. And I want to talk about them at the same time, because I believe, again, this list here has a whole bunch of people who are, kings or king makers, whatnot. The last 2 are both combined. But when you look at what Dick did, he did compete against Johnny Carson, number 1. So he was an outstanding talk show host in his own respect. But he also was such a part of Jack Parr's show, and was influenced so much by Jack Paar. And when you look at, his reverence for Jack is just second to none. And I look at what Dick did, and the combination of broadcaster intelligence, stand up as well. He is absolutely a phenomenal player, and carries on the spirit of Jack Paar. That's why I put Dick Cavett at number 3. I know that there might be some people who want to start throwing stones at me with that one, but this is my list. It has nothing to do with the fact that Dick told me he liked me. Nothing to do with that at all. But yeah, he's my number 3.
No, not absurd at all. Those were the 2 names. I was wondering which one you were going to leave off. Those were the 2 that were out there. Cavett, in many ways a podcaster, right? Same conversation that we've had. I can't argue with it. Is Cavett's show wacky? No, not at all. Not at all.
Nope. No, it had no wackiness to it. It was intelligent humor, to be sure.
Oh, wait, I just realized, unless you've totally lost your mind with 2 slots left, you have left Tom Snyder off your list.
I did. Tom Snyder is one of the honorable mentions. It was him, and I mean, I look at him, I look at Charlie Rose, and it's the long form, late night, that I love that Dave does right now, but yet it is off the list. And, Tom's one of those guys who he was one of Dave's influences. And I think it's very obvious, that he's one of Dave's influences. But yeah, hey, there's only 10 slots, and you can't have everybody represented. Tom's one of the people that did not make the list.
Now, I'm hoping you're going for the clicks here, and one of the last 2 slots is going to Magic Johnson or Chevy Chase and the Pat Sajak. And, the 2 left are Letterman and Pat Sajak, and then we can all hate on your list.
That's right. Sajak, it's just the best punchline of all time is Pat Sajak. I just love it.
That
so much.
show wasn't that bad. It wasn't no reason to exist, but it wasn't awful.
Oh, he was fine, but you talk about a guy who didn't connect. He didn't feel like he was connecting with it the way that the hosts that we love connect with us so much. Like, I look at a guy like Craig Ferguson. I felt a genuine connection with him. I felt he was genuinely connecting with his guests. He had a genuine connection with the robot skeleton on the other side of the room. You look at Pat Sajak, and I didn't feel that connection at all. The other honorable mention, by the way, of course, is Mr. Alan Thicke, Canadian hero, Mr. Alan Thicke for Thick of the Night. He gets an honorable mention. But yeah, no, number 2 is Johnny. Number 2 is Johnny Carson. Yep.
Number 2. On the Letterman podcast, Johnny Carson's only number 2. That's wow, that's shocking.
Most people who are enthusiasts of David Letterman, they say Johnny's number 1. I don't. But it's the same way that again, I've used this example so many times. The Godfather. Some people like Vito, some people like Michael. Well, Michael took the thing and he carried it down the field farther and was even more successful, and to me, Johnny Carson, he did that. And then the guy who makes number 1 went and did that. So Johnny took the ball. Johnny Carson. I mean, oh, by the way, let's give a little love to my boy, Mark Malkoff. I'm seeing stories every day online where, like, the Daily Mirror or Us Weekly or whatever will tell an old Johnny Carson story. It's happening every day on the news right now. I love seeing this. And it's all as a result of Mark's book being released. And they're seeing a newly released book by Mark Malkoff and telling a Johnny Carson, Joan Rivers story or something like that. I could not be happier that we are in 2025 and Johnny Carson is still getting buzz. It is such a beautiful, beautiful thing. Did you love Johnny growing up?
So Johnny was the thing I stared at killing time until 12:30, right? So I come into Johnny backward because my godmother hasn't gotten me the VCR yet, and I don't have cable TV. So what am I going to do? So you start watching this Johnny Carson guy, and over time you come to appreciate it. And I was really in on the end. Then as time goes on and you become older and more mature, and you go back and you just study the work because you're into these things and you see the clips. And then when the MeTVs of the world were airing the older shows and you read the books, and I just came to really, really appreciate everything about Johnny Carson, even more so than maybe the version that I saw in his 60s before he was walking away actually relatively young, right? But yeah, no, I came to really appreciate Johnny. Obviously, I love Dave, or we wouldn't even be friends. Yeah. But for me, there's a nuclear emergency and we got to wake somebody up at 3:15 in the morning and go, dude, sorry to wake you. There's a set and you got to interview Mary Lou Henner and a band. And I wrote a monologue for you and just, you got to execute a late night show right now. I would hand the ball to Johnny and know that I'm going to get a funny hour. Whereas Dave, I'd be on roller skates the entire time.
Oh, that's a great analogy. Yes. Yeah, that's you could set your watch to Johnny.
Yeah.
You really could. And he's just it's cool reading the book actually because it came out in it's so weird that a book in 2025 would be the perfect time to come out about Johnny Carson, but it really, really is. When you look at the perspective of what's happening in late night right now, and you read some of the stuff that Johnny went through, and late night is a show, but late night is a genre. When you look at it, there's these crazy quotes that come out of him, Johnny Carson, that are in this book that are prophetic. Talking about how it's going to expand and it's going to have to contract it's really, I mean, Johnny Carson I want to say he's the GOAT, but he's the GOAT that created the GOAT. Number one, of course, it's the Letterman podcast. I did want to look at looking at someone else, but there was just nobody other than Johnny who could have ever taken this spot. He is the number one, in my opinion, broadcaster of all time. It's not even just a talk show host. In my opinion, David Letterman is the number one broadcaster of all time. And you can go from every genre, from the most ridiculous of the ridiculous, throwing stuff off the tower, to having phenomenal short and long form conversations with heads of state of the world and everything in between. Dave's the guy. The fact that he inspired some Canadian, to out of his basement, create a show in his name, who has no business in doing something like that. That's the inspiration. That's the kind of reach that Dave has, and is still doing it. And he didn't stop. Johnny stopped, and he kind of left the limelight. Dave hasn't done that. In fact, he has introduced so many people to so many different things because of who he is and where he is in this time and place in history. So David Letterman is, of course, number one.
He's clearly my favorite. Can't argue with it. You're putting a thought in my head about the walk-off by Johnny Carson, that we don't have the Johnny Carson Netflix series where he interviewed Angie Dickinson.
Yep.
We don't have that, whereas we do have elder statesman Letterman. Now I'm really digging the openly political David Letterman. I think that's really, really interesting. And again, late night shows can't be political. Sure, they can. Absolutely, they can. And they should be. I get the playing down the middle. I get it. But I also like to know what somebody is thinking. Not that you want to lose half the audience. I understand that argument. But this version of David Letterman, where I don't care, I'll walk away from the table and leave my chips there. Don't need them, don't care. And he can speak his mind to the current state of things. I absolutely love it. But back to the walk-off, you just did a mental exercise for me. If, I don't know, Dave goes, well, I'm not getting the Tonight Show, that's it. And he just becomes a total recluse. And all I have in my mind are 11 seasons of a guy throwing watermelons off a tower. It would probably be like Eddie Murphy's comedy career, that if you told me like, hey, Letterman's coming back and he's hosting on Netflix, I'd be like, oh my God, that's going to be the most amazing thing ever. And then a guy with a white beard shows up and does a serious interview with Adam Sandler. It would be like if Eddie Murphy ever returns to stand-up. It cannot possibly live up to what my mind needs the Beatles reunion to be. So maybe if Dave does do 11 and done, I'd be like, oh my God, did you see this show? It's the most amazing thing that ever happened. And then he walked away.
I think it's funny, as you said that, I think about when Craig Ferguson left, and it's almost similar to, Craig Ferguson decides he doesn't, he left late night. It's very similar to that. And, that's got me thinking too. That's a fantastic analogy. That's exactly right. If Dave would have done that, it's funny. Like I'm trying to remember Senator Al Franken. In the last month, the last 6 weeks, Al Franken was on. He was a senator at the time, and he said to Dave, he said, before you go off and become an eccentric recluse. And I think a lot of people thought that that's exactly what Dave was going to do. And it's funny. Like I'm into Billie Eilish. The reason I'm into Billie Eilish is because she was on Dave's My Next Guest show, but people ask me what my favorite next guest, is of all time. And until I saw Bateman, I had an answer. And then Bateman might be my number one of all time. But then I went and saw Dave Chappelle's special, and the guy who Bateman replaced went back up, and Dave Chappelle is my favorite Letterman of all time. And my next guest, I should say, of all time. And part of it, I think, is because when Dave does start talking to people with opinions about things, we start to get glimpses of what Dave's opinion on the same subject are. And we always liked that. We always liked when a guest back in the day would say something to Dave and make him answer a personal question. And we, the audience, loved that, right? Because it didn't happen very often because of how private he is. And in this way, I think my next guest does it as well. It brings out some of those political things. To me, Dave is always a common sense guy. His barometer for making fun of a politician or something like that didn't go off until the common sense part. As soon as the common sense part went into the red, now it's like, okay, we're just going to open it up. But yeah, that's a good point that you made about that. I really love that.
No, and there's something to walking off. I think when Howard Stern's career is said and done, there's going to be a strong argument for whatever day Artie Lange needed to leave the show should have been the last episode of the Howard Stern show. I'm not sure that this late period Howard stuff is doing justice to the Howard Stern legacy.
I know, man. Like he just signed on for, is it 3 years? Another 3 years?
Yeah.
So he's not retiring, essentially. That's what that tells me, is that he's just not going to retire. He's just going to keep going and doing it because it's what he knows, what he loves. I think he still loves it. I don't know. I haven't listened to a ton of the current stuff. It seems like he does enjoy having thoughtful conversations with people, but when you think back to what brought him to the dance and how, oh, I see these two girls here and I want to bang them both. Like that was the stuff he used to say every single day, and that's what brought him to it. And his evolution is very interesting. Yeah, I don't know. Like, is it comforting? Is it comfort food? Dave talked about Johnny, how Johnny would tuck people in every night. And it was just one of those things. Is Howard Stern comfort food to a lot of people? Is that part of it?
I don't think so, because I think those of us that grew up on Howard, that Howard's gone. Johnny was still Johnny. Right. You could swap out an episode from 1986 with one from 1974.
Yep.
And maybe it was a half hour shorter, but it was the same show.
Yeah.
Set looked a little newer. That was it. It was the same show. Whereas what Howard's doing now has, Robin and Fred are there, but other than that, it's not really the same show from, pick a day in 1993.
Yeah. I love when Dave and Howard have conversations. Like there's an episode of, I would love to hear Dave and Howard have another conversation, a current one. I don't think they've talked in a while, in a year anyway, something like that. I love when they talk. One of the things that those two both have in common is they have the ability to get people to start talking about things that they don't want to talk about. Both of them have that ability. What do you think that is? Like, you've been in radio for a long time. Like when you have a host, Alex Bennett can do the same thing, actually. When you have a host who has the ability to start eliciting stuff that the person that they're talking to didn't necessarily intend on talking about, what is that causes that?
So it's a combination of charisma, prep, doing the prep, and taking the time to get the guest in a place where they're comfortable. So if I have you on and come out gangbusters and go, Mike, host of the Letterman podcast, you have Johnny Carson at number 2, that's ridiculous. I've started off from an antagonistic point of view. Right. Whereas if I hang out with you for 40 minutes, and especially if I can talk to you about the thing you're very passionate about that's not this. So, Hey, Mike, I was on your Facebook page yesterday. I saw you out with your granddaughter. What were you guys up to? What was that like? And, I could just tell from your Facebook posts, this is something this is someone who is tremendously important to you. And so I could talk to you about her for 20 minutes and get you to open up. And now our body language has gone from this to kind of leaning back in the chair, and we're just two people having a conversation. And now I can ask you about the, that really terrible thing in your life that you don't really open up about, but it's not my opener. And that's what Howard's good at. That's why he has guests on for an hour. And you sit in the comfy sofa and you get a little comfortable with the gang, and it's not a threatening thing. And but that plus charisma, plus the reputation of the show, and he is a very good interviewer. It's just not the reason those of us who bought Howard Stern stock in 1985 bought it.
Right. Now that makes a lot of sense. So that's the list. That's the list. Not too controversial, right?
It's a good list.
Zone Rivers gets an honorable mention. So does Tom. He gets an honorable mention, of course, as well. Yeah, but anyway, that was it. It was hard not to get. The hardest part was shoehorning. How can I talk about Colbert and how can I talk about Parr? But like having both Alan and Parr on and Carson on and Jay on, that was just it was a bridge that was just it was too heavy on the bridge. So one of them had to, but 3 Tonight Show lists on the top 10 list. There's 3 who hosted the Tonight Show. So, but yeah, I can't wait till you watch the Sandler episode.
There's 4.
Is there 4? Who's the 4th?
Conan O'Brien hosted the Tonight Show. How dare you, sir? How dare you? You're unbelievable.
I said it too. It was like something felt weird when I said it. Oh my God, that's
You're
so
the
funny.
Jay Leno of podcasters. That's who you are.
Cutting it there. Mike laughed at that line there at the end, and we moved on to some other topics, but I'm saving that part of the conversation for a completely different episode on one of these January weekends. Hope you're enjoying these conversations with Mike. We're hoping to do a bunch of these. I enjoy talking to him, and we can talk forever. This Raw session was 2.5 hours. Anytime we're together, we just go and go and go. So he's Mike Chisholm. He hosts the Letterman podcast. Mike, thank you for your time, and I'll meet everybody back here tomorrow.